My name is Leah Kim. I'm 31 years old, and 5 years ago, I escaped Seattle like my life depended on it. Because honestly, it did. I was crushing it as a back-end developer for a cybersecurity company that protected major banks and government secrets. I wasn't just good at my job, I was the person they called when everything was falling apart and nobody else could fix it. But here's the thing. Outside of work, I was a ghost. At least to my family. We hadn't spoken since 2016. Radio silence. For 7 long years. So when my phone lit up on a quiet Wednesday night in October 2023, seeing my cousin Rachel's name nearly gave me a heart attack. She was the only family member who even had my new number, Leah. Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. Your parents are trying to reach you. They want you home for Christmas. I sank onto my tiny Brooklyn apartment bed like I'd been punched. Now, I whispered, after all these years? They've been asking around, Rachel said carefully. They seem serious. I hung up and stared at the wall until my vision blurred. I hadn't thought about my family in months. Years, really. But suddenly, the memories crashed over me like a tsunami. I was always the weird one, never the favorite. Never enough. I remembered being 13, curled up in that cold psychiatrist's office chair, knees pulled tight to my chest while Dr. Patel delivered his verdict to my parents. Leah's struggles aren't from isolation. They're from being ignored. My mother had actually scoffed. We love both our kids equally, but we all knew she was lying. My older brother Dylan was everything I wasn't: charming, popular, the golden boy who could do no wrong. He got a brand new car for his 16th birthday. I got a thrift store sweater that still smelled like someone else's life. Even at Christmas, Dylan's presents sparkled under the tree like treasures. Mine looked like afterthoughts wrapped in leftover paper, but this year, they were finally calling me back. And they had absolutely no idea who I'd become. The awakening family gatherings were pure torture. Dylan would command the room loud, magnetic, everyone hanging on his every word while I melted into the background like forgotten furniture. That's when I discovered my superpower. Coding.it started with a wrinkled flyer taped to the high school bulletin board. Intro to Computer Science Club, Room 27, Thursdays after school. I went once, then never missed another session. For the first time in my life, I felt seen. Not by people they still ignored me, but by the beautiful logic of code. The Computer Science Club became my sanctuary. We rebuilt ancient PCs from junkyard scraps, traded programming books like sacred texts, and stayed late debugging each other's projects. I even built my first game on a borrowed laptop that took forever to boot up. Mr. Alvarez, our teacher, pulled me aside one day. You've got something special, Leah, he said, eyes serious. Don't let anyone shrink you. Those words saved my life. By 17, I had my escape plan mapped out. I'd applied to colleges across the country, ready to build my future from scratch. Dylan, meanwhile, was already enrolled at Stanford, riding on my parents' full financial support. Naturally, then came that Thanksgiving dinner, the one that changed everything. Dad raised his glass toward Dylan. To our son, making us proud. At Stanford, cheers erupted around the table. Mom beamed like Dylan had just cured cancer. Then she added, almost as an afterthought, as for Leah, we're encouraging her to find steady work. My uncle cracked up. We're hiring dishwashers at the diner. The whole table exploded in laughter, including my parents. I didn't laugh. I couldn't breathe. What they didn't know, what would have shut them up instantly, was that I'd already secured a full ride to a top-tier tech program in New York. Full tuition, housing, even a monthly stipend, all covered. I packed my bags quietly and disappeared into a Manhattan dorm, building my empire waitress part-time, graduated top of my class, and landed my dream job at a cybersecurity firm before my diploma was even printed. 4 years later, I'd just led a multi-million-dollar integration for a global bank. The bonus alone was enough to buy property in Brooklyn. So I did. Within days, my realtor found the perfect brownstone condo in Fort Greene. 2 bedrooms, sleek kitchen, exposed brick walls, walking distance to the park. At 31, I officially became a homeowner. 2 weeks before Christmas, I hosted a small housewarming for my real friends, the ones who'd seen me pull all-nighters, cry over failed code, and still show up every day. We sat on floor cushions with Thai takeout and cheap wine, surrounded by unpacked boxes and genuine laughter. Lisa raised her glass. To Leah, she said, the quiet one who turned silence into power. We clinked glasses, and I smiled. But one thought kept nagging at me. I was going home in a week. But this time, I wasn't returning as the invisible girl. This time, I was coming back as someone who knew exactly what she was worth. The homecoming week before Christmas, I took time off work, wrapped thoughtful gifts, and drove 6 hours back to my childhood neighborhood in North Seattle. The house looked tired, faded siding, overgrown hedges, a porch light that flickered like it was dying. I rang the doorbell with trembling hands. Footsteps. Then the door creaked open. Leah. My mother blinked like she was seeing a ghost. Wow, it's really you. She gave me the briefest, stiffest hug imaginable. You look different. Inside, the smell hit me like a slap: old wood polish, stale air, and that ancient bowl of potpourri that had been there since I was 12. The living room was packed with relatives I barely recognized. Conversations died as every eye turned toward me. Well, look who finally showed up. Someone muttered, is she wearing sweatpants? Another whispered. I glanced down at my tailored black slacks and designer coat. Quiet luxury, but apparently lost on this crowd. Then Dylan emerged from the kitchen, all smiles and swagger. Everyone, this is Mia, my wife. He gestured proudly at her pregnant belly. Your future niece or nephew. Congratulations, I said genuinely. He smirked. Still coding in some corner somewhere? Laughter rippled through the room. I felt my jaw clench. I work in tech, I replied calmly. If you've ever returned home with more power than they imagined, hit subscribe because the next part of this story is where everything changes. Tech, huh? Dylan's smirk widened. Like fixing printers? Answering help desk calls? He turned to Mia with a theatrical whisper that everyone could hear. Leah was always the weird one, probably working out of some basement somewhere. I just smiled faintly. Something like that. Mom clapped her hands. Dinner will be ready soon. Leah, put your things down. Dylan's using your old room as his office now, so you'll be sleeping on the couch. Of course he was. Of course I would. Death by 1,000 Kuchi night was a slow-motion torture session. Aunt Nora cornered me by the sad bowl of punch. Your brother's starting his own business, she gushed. He's such a visionary. And you're still in computers? I write software, I replied. She scrunched her nose like I'd said I collected garbage. Well, someone has to do the boring stuff. Uncle Mike leaned over during dinner prep. Dishwasher position still open at my diner. Pays minimum wage, but it's honest work. Thanks, I said politely. I'm good. At dinner, they seated me at the far end of the table, next to the kitchen door. Dylan predictably held court at the head, pontificating about his revolutionary business idea. This is going to disrupt everything, he declared with the confidence of someone who'd never actually built anything. We just need startup capital to launch. How much? Dad asked, leaning forward with interest. 200 grand to get rolling, Dylan said casually, like he was asking for lunch money. I nearly choked on my water. It was every failed startup glitch I'd ever heard rolled into one delusional pitch. We'll figure something out, Mom said, patting his hand like he was still 5. Family helps family. After dinner, she handed me a thin blanket and gestured toward the couch like I was a house guest who'd overstayed their welcome. Christmas morning. The perfect storm. Christmas morning exploded with Dylan and Mia thundering down the stairs like excited children. Mountains of presents waited under the tree. They unwrapped my carefully chosen gifts, luxury items I'd researched and selected thoughtfully. Leah, these are beautiful, Mom gasped, holding up her new designer bag. But when it came to my turn, the energy shifted. Oh no, Mom gasped, but way too loudly. Leah, we completely forgot. Dylan burst out laughing. Just like when we were kids. Don't cry this time, he smirked. You're an adult now. Something crystallized inside me. Not sadness, not anger, pure cold clarity. I'm not going to cry, I said evenly. reaching into my purse. Actually, I bought myself a pretty amazing gift this year. I pulled out my keychain and held it up. The brushed steel caught the morning light. Mom frowned. What's that? Keys, I said simply, to my new apartment. I closed on it last week. Silence fell like a bomb going off. Dad blinked. You bought an apartment? With money, I said. From my job. My company just licensed a cybersecurity framework I built to a major international bank. My cut was solid. Mom's eyes narrowed dangerously. How solid? I shrugged. About $150,000. After taxes. You could have heard a pin drop in another zip code. Dylan's mouth hung open. Mia's eyes went wide as saucers. Mom and Dad stared at me like I'd just confessed to being a secret agent. $150,000. Mom's voice pitched up an octave. What kind of job pays bonuses like that? I told you, I said calmly. I'm a software developer. I build enterprise security systems for Fortune 500 clients. Dad leaned forward like a shark smelling blood. How long have you been earning this kind of money? Since graduation. The bonuses vary, but my salary's been six figures for years. That's when the switch flipped. Mom shot up like she'd been electrocuted. Suddenly all sunshine and sugar. Sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? We're so proud of you. Dad chimed in eagerly. Dylan, did you hear that? Your sister works with Fortune 500 companies. Dylan's jaw clenched so hard I thought he might crack a tooth. Mia whispered something urgent in his ear. Mom practically bounced over to perch beside me. So tell us about this apartment. How many bedrooms? 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. Fort Greene, close to work. She beamed like I'd just announced my engagement. We should visit. Families should stick together. I almost laughed out loud. Family. After 8 years of total silence. Actually, I said, standing up, I've got a long drive ahead. Mom grabbed my arm. You just got here. Stay another day. Dad nodded frantically. We haven't even talked about your career. They asked as I packed. I could hear them whispering, voices hushed and urgent, like they were planning a heist. When I came back downstairs with my suitcase, they were waiting. 3 eager, strange smiles that set off every alarm bell in my head. Before you head out, Dad said, stepping forward, we should talk about Dylan's business opportunity. Here it comes, I thought. As you mentioned, he needs a little capital to get started. Dad continued. Dylan smiled like he was doing me the favor of a lifetime. It's a solid investment. You'd be in on the ground floor. How much? I asked flatly. Just 200,000, he said, like it was pocket change. With what you make, that's nothing, right? I looked at them, really looked at them. My parents, who'd once laughed when Uncle Mike offered me a dishwashing job. My brother, who'd spent a lifetime making me feel worthless. And his wife, who'd giggled along just yesterday morning. No, I said. The smiles vanished instantly. What do you mean, no? Mom snapped. I mean, I'm not giving you any money. But we're family, Dad protested, like the word held some sacred power. I folded my arms. Where was family when I was told to find my own place a day after graduation? Or when you paid for Dylan's college but left me to figure it out alone? That was different, Mom sputtered. We didn't have money back then. You had money for Dylan. Dylan showed promise. She barked, then immediately backtracked. I mean, we thought work would be better for you. I grabbed my bag. I need to go. You selfish brat. Dylan exploded. After everything this family did for you. What did you do? I asked. Raise me? Feed me? That's called parenting, not charity. And you made sure I knew I wasn't wanted. I walked toward the door as they followed, still protesting. You'll regret this, Mom shouted. I won't, I said, and meant every word. Freedom. By the time I hit the highway, my phone was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Calls, texts, guilt trips. I blocked them all. At a rest stop, I texted Sarah. Heard what happened. Sorry about them. Don't be, I replied. This was the best gift they ever gave me. Freedom. She sent back a laughing emoji. Then, your mom's telling everyone you're ungrateful. Let her, I wrote back. That night, back in Brooklyn, I poured a glass of wine and watched a city glow from my balcony. I slept better than I had in years. The aftermath the next morning brought a flood of messages, but not from my parents or Dylan. These were from aunts, uncles, and cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. Your mother told us what happened. How could you abandon your family? Dylan is trying to build something. You should support him. We always knew you were selfish. One by one, I blocked them. Every name, every guilt trip gone, except Sarah. She called that afternoon. Jesus, Leah, she sighed. The whole family's imploding. Your mom called everyone, saying you're rich and won't help Dylan. Good for her, I said dryly. She's telling people you've forgotten where you came from. Of course she is. God forbid they admit the daughter they ignored actually did something with her life. Sarah's voice softened. I'm proud of you. For what it's worth everything. I told her, you're the only one I care to keep in touch with. Are you really okay cutting everyone else off? Sarah, I said gently. I cut them off 8 years ago. This just made it official. New beginnings that evening. I met my friends at our usual spot in Fort Greene, a cozy wine bar with worn leather booths and fairy lights strung over the bar. I told them everything. Good riddance, Lisa said. They sound toxic as hell. Do you think you'll miss them? Another friend asked. I thought about it carefully. No, I think I've been mourning the family I never had. This just closed the book. I raised my glass. To chosen family. To chosen family. They echoed, smiling as we toasted. My phone buzzed an unknown number. I switched it to silent. 6 months later. Living my best life, summer rab Brooklyn. In golden sunlight. I sat on my balcony with my morning coffee, watching the world wake up below. It felt like emerging from a fog I hadn't even realized I'd been living in. Sarah still called weekly with updates, not because I asked, but because she genuinely cared. Jake's daughter was born last month, she told me. Madison. That's beautiful, I said, meaning it. I hoped that little girl would be loved better than I ever was. According to Sarah, Dylan and Mia were still living with my parents. The big startup was still just talk. Even the relatives were getting tired of hearing about it. My parents had turned my betrayal into their favorite sob story. At every family gathering, they painted me as the ungrateful daughter who vanished despite all their sacrifices. Meanwhile, my life had transformed into something I wouldn't trade for anything. 3 months after that disastrous Christmas, I met Ethan at a coffee shop near my office. He was a freelance designer with kind eyes and deep respect for boundaries. He understood the tech world, and more importantly, he understood what it meant to walk away from toxic family. He'd done it too. Work was absolutely thriving. I'd been promoted to lead systems architect for a major AI security integration. The pay raise was incredible. But what thrilled me more was the freedom to build something groundbreaking. My team respected me. My ideas mattered. I was finally building the life I used to dream about from that lumpy couch in my parents' basement. About a month ago, Dylan somehow got a new number and called. Hey, Leah. His voice was awkwardly chipper. Thought we could catch up. What do you want? I asked. Well, Madison should meet her aunt. And things are tight right now. Mom and Dad's house needs work. No, you don't even know how much. Doesn't matter. He exploded. I hung up, blocked the number, and felt absolutely nothing but peace. The sweet life as I sat in my own apartment, sipping coffee beside Ethan. I felt complete. Everything they said I'd never have, love, stability, success, I'd built on my own terms. Sarah mentioned they were turning my old bedroom into a nursery. It didn't sting. That room never felt like mine anyway. This one does. They still tried, reaching me through distant cousins and family friends. My favorite was Aunt Nora's voicemail. Family is forever, Leah. But I'd already walked away, and I wasn't turning back. Ethan and I were planning a trip to Japan next month. We'd been learning the language, mapping out temples, and bookmarking amazing noodle shops. Sarah texted me. Mom saw your Instagram post. She says it's typical you'd rather vacation than help family. Good, I said. Maybe she'll finally get it. Last week I was promoted to head of engineering. Top 1% salary. My boss said, you earned this. We celebrated with friends. Lisa joked. Your mom probably sensed your bank balance went up. That night, Ethan brought champagne to the balcony. Let's buy a house, I said. With space. A yard. Maybe a dog. My phone buzzed. Sarah again. Mom says you must be a drug dealer now. I laughed until my sides hurt. Let them spin their crazy stories. I'm living mine. Final thoughts: if you've ever felt invisible in your own family, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and tell me what you walked away from, what piece you built. Your support reminds me I'm not alone, and maybe you need that reminder too. My advice? Don't wait for permission to choose yourself. Build the life that reflects your worth, not their expectations. And if this story resonated with you, hit subscribe. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.